You're listening to the SojuTalk Nation Podcast, Episode 5.
On today's episode, we talk about this week in music, State of the Nation, movie night, and a special guest interview. Warren from the SojuTalk Kpop Podcast main show joins us today.
So sit back and chill with friends. You're listening to The After Show with the SojuTalk Nation. Welcome to the SojuTalk Nation Podcast, a relaxed discussion on this week in the SojuTalk Nation. I'm your host, Crispy, and joining me as always is Koala.
Hi!
Koala, how are you today?
I'm very happy. Rosy birthday, I can't be sad.
I know. So we're recording this on February 10th, 2021. It is...
Oh, you got the year right.
I did get the year right this time, yes. In Korea Standard Time right now, it is Rose's birthday. So wishing Rose a happy birthday. We were just watching her V-Live. She's got a lot of cool decoration and a nice little celebration with all the fans. We'll probably check out the rest of that a little bit later. But yeah, we're just kind of in a very uplifting, happy celebration mood for Rose today. Right, Koala?
Yes.
So news and announcements. We have a special guest, and we mentioned it at the very top. So later on in the show today, we're gonna have an interview with the one and only Warren. So he'll be joining us. It'll be an inserted interview into the show. But yeah, stay tuned for that. If you want to go jump directly to that, there are timestamps at the bottom of the description. Yeah, talking is hard sometimes, you know? I'm gonna leave this all in. But yeah, so just heads up, if you're here for Warren, stay tuned. He will be joining us shortly. So to celebrate the nation, we have one birthday today. One birthday this week. February 13th, we have DJ Kurastand. I think that's how you pronounce it. So he is on the Discord. So go ahead and hop on over to Discord, either early or after February 13th, and wish him a happy birthday. Him or her a happy birthday. I'm not sure if they put their pronouns in their roles. All right. So let's move on to this week in SojuTalk music. We have 3 songs and one boy group. So Koala will have something to talk about this week. The first song is CIX with Cinema. And then we have Hyuna with her second song, Good Girl. And then we have aespa with a remake/cover in Forever. So the first song, I'll let Koala take care of this. It's CIX's Cinema. Koala, what are your thoughts, and what did you think about the crew talking about this song this week?
I already expected them to like it because looking at the past discography, CIX's, I think it's 3 title tracks were also well received by the crew, and they are really good. So I was not surprised that the crew really liked them a lot. I just think for CIX, they're on a steady quality for their music, which makes it really enjoyable and likely to stand in, and I am really happy about the reactions.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that I don't prioritize boy groups and male artists, but when I did watch the music video and listen to the song, it was very pleasant, and it was just very easy to listen to. And I didn't know this until you told me that there are YG former trainees on there. So it does stand to reason why you would like this and be interested in what they had to say. But I do really enjoy this sound more than kind of the aggressive, like hard-hitting boy group sound. And it was just a very pleasant to hear them talk about kind of the history of CIX and how they compared them with AB6 because they have trainees from Produce. And it was really interesting that they would go back and kind of give more detail and depth of the direction they thought a lot of the Produce kids went into. Yet to be determined about the trajectory of CIX or AB6, but I think it's a nice comparison moving forward for them. What did you think about the crew talking about the Produce kids for this song?
I think it makes sense because especially these two groups are, in my opinion, like mostly compared to each other, because there is no other group out of like 101 former members that's like these two. Other members just either went solo or back to their old group. So it's interesting to compare these two and to see how post-Produce members do in like the whole industry and entertainment scene.
Yeah, it's just something to look out for, especially if you are invested in that in Produce in general, right? For me, Produce Season 1, IOI, I'm very invested in all the members, even if things haven't worked out well for them. So I can imagine if you are a boy group stan or you just happen to be invested in kind of the journey and story of all these different trainees, that CIX would appeal to you. So moving on, we have Hyunna's second song in the past 2 weeks, Good Girl. You know, I'll ask you first, Koala. What did you think about more Hyunna things, and fashion? What is fashion? Explain.
I don't know what fashion is. I've been at this point for long now. I just don't try to understand it anymore.
Same.
It's like, okay, it's there. Like for Hyunna especially, it's Hyunna. We know her personality. We know what's coming. But I didn't expect this. But still, we like kind of know which direction it will go.
Yeah, very eccentric. I thought one cool point that they mentioned on the show was, if this is the fashion that was selected for the music video, what didn't make it? I think that would be really an interesting behind the scenes of just like the styling like selection. And I do also want to point out that Doug had made a pitch about a fashion show for Korea. So kind of like styling an idol. And like, even though it's like, it's not directly connected to Hyunna, but I think I would watch that show just to get an idea of like the creativity behind like those fashion choices. And also to explain what fashion is, because I still don't understand what fashion is. So help someone.
That idea reminded me of one like web series. I don't remember the name, but I know that they had like a concept which Doug was talking about, not with celebrities, but they just generally had like a budget where they could just buy shit. I think there was like also K-pop themed one, so it was pretty funny to watch a few like specific groups and they covered them.
Yeah, and definitely like just the idea of following a group's more behind the scenes like things would definitely appeal to a lot of people. And now you get like more of like how things are made and really a peek into like the industry on this side of things. So yeah, really fun just to see Hyunna be very fashionable, very Hyunna. But I wanted to ask, what did you think about them comparing the two songs? This song and I'm Not Cool from last week.
I think. So first of all, I would say that I would agree more with, yes, Anita and Warren, that Good Girl is better. And I think it also makes sense to just compare these two because Good Girl was supposed to be the title track in like last year. I don't remember when she was supposed to come back, but they changed it to I'm Not Cool. So it was interesting to see which song would have been seen better as a title track, as a song itself. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice point for them to focus on, right? Because the two songs did come out so close to each other. And I didn't know that Good Girl was supposed to be released sooner, so it does make sense that this could have been a title track. But I do also see the value of having I'm Not Cool as something to promote, because like, yes, I didn't love the song. I'm not listening to the song currently. Excuse me. But I can see how like that song is a very strong representation of what Hyuna wants to do creatively, where she's just a very like very loud personality and loud stage performer. And yes, like maybe the song doesn't ring the same, but I also agree with Doug's point in that there's just a piece of choreo or like a very memorable moment in that song and music video that would stand out more than Good Girl. So interesting that it's one promotion period as opposed to two, but I also think that there is value in having both songs exist. And it's kind of a workaround, right? Because you can't anticipate certain things that happen in real life, and we're all just glad to have, you know, Hyuna back in the spotlight and healthy. So if this is how we're gonna take these two songs, you know, I'm okay with it. I'm here for it. Any final thoughts on the crew's discussion about Hyuna?
No.
All right, so let's move on to the third song of the week, aespa with Forever, a remake / cover. So let's talk about the Discord for a second. Okay, so when aespa first was announced, I think the Discord was a little hesitant with the idea of aespa being avatars and what SM was trying to accomplish with this whole this whole like avatar connection with your idol, with like using technology, right? But then when they debuted, we all loved it. And I think they were incredibly well received to the point where I don't want to say I stan aespa yet, but I'm very close. And I think that
totally.
I've been appointed the representative of the Mize on Discord.
You're not standing them. Nice.
Okay. Well, so this is not a proper release in the sense that it's not a proper comeback, right? It's not their own song. There's no choreography. There are stages, but it's again more of an homage. And like they said on the show, it's more of a way to highlight and showcase another side of aespa, their vocal talents. So we won't go into too much detail of like how I feel about aespa. In short, I feel very positively for them. However, I wanted to ask you, Warren said that there's a distinction between remake and cover. What do you think about his description of that?
I didn't think of it, but it totally made sense after listening to his thought, and then I was immediately like, oh, this wasn't quite a remake. This was more of a cover, and it makes way more sense to me now.
Yeah, Warren was really big brain, I would say, for this song. Like super big brain. Not to say that he's not all the time. It's just like this is one of those aha moments where we're like, wow, like Warren thinks really deeply about things, and it makes sense. Yeah, the music video that they put out did feel very polished, and it didn't feel like it added to the original song as much. So it does feel like more an homage. But I do want to point out that the live stages where you can actually hear the girls sing, I think are better in so many ways.
Stages?
Yes, there's a live stage with them singing this.
They're not promoting it though, right?
No, they're not promoting. I think it's a separate thing. But I also feel like the presentation of this made it feel like it was going to be like a promotional track, but it, to me, like this is not something that I would go back to. And then going off of just like the idea of the music video, right? So I thought what Doug said was really interesting, and also like it made a lot of sense to me in that the song probably should have best come out in December, but it would have been a nicer side of them to see instead of a stage performance music video, like a behind the scenes reel of them just like playing in the snow or just like recording in the booth, and just like give that kind of warm like winter feeling as opposed to them just like stationary on a stage with like minimal hand choreography. And I'm just like, okay, Cool.
Oh, okay. I'm here to simp, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Uh-huh.
let's move on. So, okay, so I do have one more question. So they did mention about this song that SM has a track record of following up debut songs with something that's a different kind of performance, almost a cover or an homage to something else. They mentioned Red Velvet and Be Natural. What do you think about this approach to this type of exposure for a brand new group through SM?
It worked for Red Velvet, right? So it makes sense for them to try it out with S. But I don't know whether they did it for NCT though. No clue about that. But it makes sense. Makes sense to try to promote them just to get a bigger fandom, a stable fandom, and then going on to like the physical sales and I don't know what, merch, whatever. Because mostly they are still coming from like SM. The attention will be on them, but nevertheless, they need to build a fandom at first.
Yeah, no, I didn't make that connection until they mentioned it on the show. So it does make sense from a business standpoint. But at the same time, for me, like, excuse me, for me, SM seems like a big enough company where they don't have to do that. But if the formula works, don't change it, right? So, nice job on the crew for pointing that out. All right, so let's move on to this week's Soju chart, the Spice King. Do you want me to start? I can start. Okay. So I wrote down what happened. This was absolute chaos.
Let's just say the Big Chungus didn't win. The Big Chungus isn't even on the chart.
How? I don't understand. I was so ready to talk about Chungha and her triumph.
I was listening to the episode on Spotify at first, but then when I heard that Anita dropped her chart, I immediately switched to YouTube to see the faces of Warren and Doug.
They were going insane. It was amazing. It was excellent. It was just I had no idea. I was not expecting it. So just to go over the Soju chart for this week, Spice King goes to Dreamcatcher, Odd Eye. Number 2 is CIX with Cinema, and number 3 is IS1 with Duh Duh Dance. The reason for this chaos and this completely different chart than what should have been expected from last week is that, so off the top, Warren goes with a very expected order of the songs that he likes. Mm-hmm. But Anita is the one that caused the most chaos by removing Chungha altogether, putting Dreamcatcher from 3rd to 1st, and then Cinema getting the number 2 spot. So catching Doug completely off guard, and then Doug ahead of time just saying like, I'm just going to put the songs that I want. And we end up with this. I guess my question for you is this the type of chart that you would like represented moving forward? Not in the sense of like the song selection, but just like the amount of chaos and unpredictability of week to week.
Oh, bro, don't do this every week. I'm not ready for that. But it's nice after it's having this kind of chart after like having charts that were like kind of predictable and like chill, just talking about it. But this one, this was fire. This was spicy as hell.
This was amazing. I don't know how often this will happen, but I hope it happens more often. I'll just say that because I was completely surprised and I had no idea what was happening. So, if anything, let's celebrate Anita. She's the MVP today. So good job, Anita. You are the best. So that's your spice chart for this week in the SojuTalk Nation. So the segment coming up next is one that I'm guessing you've all been waiting for. This is my one-on-one interview with 1/3 of the SojuTalk crew. Warren. He agreed to just get on a call with me talk about some things, talk about life, talk about K-pop. We wanted to kind of include the crew a little bit more as a way to not only celebrate what they've done, how they've reached so many people across the world, but also to kind of give a peek into who they are as people and help them celebrate with us, the SojuTalk Nation, in a little bit deeper introspective way. So I hope you enjoy. Here is my interview with Warren. Joining the SojuTalk Nation today is a special guest, 1/3 of the SojuTalk crew, a man who also goes by the musically talented alias known as Jetlag.
Aww.
Warren!
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. No, I'm doing good. I'm good. Thank you for having me, man.
No, of course. This was kind of something I had an idea to do a couple weeks ago when you raved about Chungha. And then Doug had mentioned Warren actually wants to be on the show. It's like, you know what? I think we can make that happen.
Right, yeah, because I was talking to Doug and I was like, I kind of want to pop on some time and talk to Crispy about Chungha because I heard and you were kind of hyped about it too, and I was like, oh boy, maybe you could have a conversation about it. I don't know,
Yeah. No, I had that exact same thought. So
right.
We're gonna be getting into Chungha, but this is kind of an unfiltered conversation. This is let's dig into who Warren is just for the nation.
Oh boy, all right.
But we will start with kind of the overall how we all got here kind of situation. So we're gonna talk about friendships, and so you, Doug, and Anita have known each other since college, and
right,
have shared many great K-pop and life adventures with us on the main show. But what does their friendship mean to you and has meant to you over the years, whether that's in K-pop or in real life?
I mean, okay, we're diving straight into the chummy stuff. Doug and Anita, I think, are obviously at this point one of the closest friends that I'm still maintaining out of the high school, college years. One thing I noticed after I graduated college is that I grow distant with a lot of people, because if you don't make an active effort to start communicating with them, for obvious reasons, nobody talks and they grow distant. And I kind of didn't want that to happen when Doug graduated. Doug didn't want that to happen, because for those of you guys who don't know, Doug graduated, I think 2 years earlier than me and Anita, because me and Anita are in the same class. Doug was doing grad school when you met him, and we didn't want that to happen. Doug didn't want that to happen. We did have a group chat, which was at one point it was just all club stuff, student organization, and then hanging out and whatnot. But once he moved to the East Coast and we were stuck in the Midwest, it quickly became here's a meme, haha, very funny. Have you seen this Twice video? Oh, that was cool. So that was kind of sad. And then at one point, I think it was Doug who had the idea of starting the podcast. And obviously you guys know the story after that, but it's even with my other friend groups, I don't talk to them very regularly. And with Doug and Anita, I obviously I talk to them every week. We do a lot of hanging out before and after that a little bit. So at this point, oh man, this is kind of cringy, but they're one of my closest friends.
Oh, let's go. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're here for.
Oh
we
man,
love it. We love to hear
I should have told you guys that we're a show window friend group. Don't talk at all afterwards.
Yeah. You guys aren't actually friends. It's all a business transaction.
No. We actually hate Doug. We all hate each other. That's what.
Oh, so that conflict is real. I see. Man.
But yeah. Great people. I'm glad to be, in this little group with them.
Yeah, and it's special having those friendships over the years. And like you said, it's very easy to lose touch with the people you grow up with, especially into adulthood. Everyone just finds their own way, gets a job, moves away. And it's hard to maintain that chemistry you have with friends.
Right. And it's a lot harder if you're just texting people and like sending people memes, right? Like, because Doug and Anita and my friendship was more around like us hanging out in Doug's apartment and like talking about K-pop. And the way podcast kind of simulates that a little bit is, you know, like we obviously talk about K-pop, we watch it separately, but like we talk about it, you know, together. And while we do have that, like, obviously we do have a thin layer of we're, you know, recording this thing that's going to go online publicly. It kind of mirrors a lot of what we did back in college. So I think, you know, it's helped a lot of that.
Yeah, there's definitely a natural chemistry you guys have together. So I wanted to know, like, when did you notice that you guys had this natural chemistry, and how did that translate over to being on the mic with everybody?
I guess it was a while back, like a year or so into becoming friends and whatnot. I was talking to Doug, and I think this was the point where I started opening up a little bit. And I was, you know, like I was saying some weird crap, and Doug was like, "Why are you this weird? You've never been this weird." And then I was like, it's your fault. Like this, I'm your friend now. Too bad. Like, and at that point,
No
like
take backs. It's it.
Right. It's too late now. You got the full package. Like, so at that point, I think I noticed our banter was getting a lot more friendlier and a lot more memey. And I think at that point, which was like a year or so into our friendship, I was like, you know, like, I don't know, like if we ever do stuff online, I think it could be kind of funny, really.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and it does show, like, just between you guys. So I've been following the K-pop the podcast since 2019 summertime. And
Oh wow.
you guys have definitely had like a very established like friendship and rapport, but then you've definitely grown like as the years have gone by, and especially this year, just considering everything with being isolated, but also like finding a connection with people. So I guess in that span of doing the show, how has your friendship grown together, either relationally or through music?
Well, I'm not sure how I translate music into this, but as with our relationships with each other, I can definitely say I'm a lot more open with these guys. You know, like because I like back in like, you know, like even earlier in the podcast, and like a couple of years before we did that, the way I present my opinions, I'm naturally one of those people that are afraid of like how people think about my opinions, and that's something I've changed as a human being while doing the show. Is I've learned how to kind of wrap it up nicely into this nice little package for people to kind of consume, and that obviously it's primarily for our listeners to consume, but also you know, talking with Doug and Anita and our relationship with each other. I think presenting these opinions, not just about K-pop, but like other things going on in our lives, I think has definitely gone deeper in that aspect. On the other hand, Anita's not really an aggressive person, if you guys haven't noticed yet.
She's a flower, you know.
Well, you know. But with Doug and myself, we definitely do have arguments here and there about like, you know, stuff about the podcast, you know, structure, you know, stuff about the Discord server. And these have become, I think through those conflicts, I've learned a lot about Doug, a lot more than when I was doing student org stuff with them. And obviously it all ends well. We, you know, like no fight has ever gone to the point where like, I'm never going to talk to you again, you know, like obviously it's all worked out. That's why we're still doing this, this show. But while doing that, I think I feel like I learned a lot more about the way he thinks, and the way he approaches things, which is nice because already when we were starting the show, I was already like, I know who Doug is. I know how he thinks. Little did I know I didn't. And now I think I have a better understanding.
Yeah, and it's oftentimes we grow the most with people we either disagree with or have like those small conflicts. Like we can always like have like our small disagreements, but it's all about coming back together and kind of growing, and just
Yeah.
it's really nice to just hear how you guys have kept that bond together, and it really does show that you guys are all making each other better. I know that sounds really sappy, but it does come across that way. So I do want to say that as a very just like sincere thought, and it's kind of the reason why. Me speaking for myself, I come back to the podcast and I enjoy the company of everyone because it does feel like a found family. It does feel like home. So
I'm glad. I'm really glad because I think that's what we try to. That's how I think we try to set ourselves apart from like other podcasts or like other like people who do media in this sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you said something really interesting about seeing K-pop differently from different points of view and just having different perspectives on things between you, Doug, and Anita. So I kind of want to set up this next section about K-pop, starting off with a Star Wars analogy. Okay. Because I know you're a big Star Wars fan, and this hopefully will pique your interest. So Star Wars recently launched a new era in print storytelling, the High Republic.
Right.
And it takes place about 300 years prior to Episode 1, and it really focuses on the Jedi at their height and kind of furthering the storytelling and furthering the relationship the Jedi have with the Force. So each Jedi sees the Force in a different way. So one connects with the Force as if it's music.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and then another would see the Force as like a stormy, chaotic sea, right? But then like riding the currents and the waves of how the Force connects and intertwines with everything that it touches. And then another is a deep-rooted tall tree stretching out into the sky, but on a singular leaf.
Oh, okay.
And this is very explicitly named this way in the novel. And I pulled this out specifically because I thought about you guys, the three of you, and how there's the music side of things where it kind of flows. Not that any one of these examples relates to any one of you specifically, because I feel like you guys all work in harmony with each other. But there's the chaos with the sea, but then there's also the groundedness of the deep-rooted tree.
I do think I bring in a little more chaos sometimes. Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I'll bring that back up in a minute. But
okay.
So going off of just like the different ways that we can see music, or the different ways that we see the things that we enjoy. What do you bring as far as your story into K-pop, hip hop, and just music in general? Because I know your background in music. And what details do you focus in on most?
I guess the way I think, I guess that goes back to the way I approach these songs that we're reviewing, right? And a lot of it goes into the perspective I have on music in general. Because I grew up, I didn't really grow up. Like maybe like 6 or so years ago, I started reading a lot of like reviews and like music critics reviewing albums, music, that kind of deal. And I wasn't, to a certain degree, I was obviously interested in the scores they give, but I was also interested in the perspective they bring. Because every time I read those things, I would learn a lot about, learn a lot about their perspectives in terms of like, like the narrative structure, or like the way the song is written, or the production, or even just the background and the context, the way music is released. And I thought that was just very neat how like knowing about all that, reading about all that, it kind of gives you a different perspective on how you listen to the music. Like for instance, the only example I can think of is Reddy's 50K, which is really, really grounded upon his experience with Show Me the Money and how that boosted him into fame. And then when all the bubbles popped, he was like not really popular anymore, and then he ran out of money. And then like thinking about all these contextual, background stories that you would pick up on that I would have read on a review. I start to think about music in the big picture, like how that fits into the artist's discography and their career, and that kind of deal. So I think to a degree, not to a degree, I think very much I focus on that a lot more than Anita and Doug. I know that Doug focuses a lot more on the career and their industry prospects as well. I stray away from that a little bit and look at their discography as an entire catalog and even a whole art piece. Like at this point, Twice, for example, with like how many mini albums do they have?
I lost track.
I know, right? Like
so many. If it makes me a bad once, I'm sorry. I've lost track.
No, you know what? You're good. I'm also a bad once here.
All right, sick.
But I think with the entire catalog of music they have, that already itself is like another way to view their art and like the imprint they're making on the industry. And I like to think about stuff like that a lot. So yeah, I like to think about stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question a little bit?
No, it does. It was excellent. It was a beautiful answer. And I wanted to go like a little bit more into that. So
yeah.
Definitely with the way Doug talks about music, it's very here are the details of how it's industry related, because that's kind of like one of the main reasons people come to the show is to be informed, right? Then Anita has more of the emotional connection, like where was she when she listened to this music? Oftentimes it's at an earlier period in her life, so she feels that retro vibe, as we have discussed many times. But for you, the way it seems like you are more about the overarching story of what music is supposed to be telling you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, I definitely focus a lot on like what its role is in the bigger picture, as well as how it's, you know, like being portrayed as a song itself. I hope I'm not getting too deep here.
No, you're doing great. Yeah, keep it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I do like to think about, like for example, last week we were talking about the aespa remaking Yu Young-jin's song, and then like my definition of a good remake, or something like that, is a reinterpretation and something where the artists themselves can add something more on top of like the original artist's like story and like narrative and the track itself, and the emotions that the original song gives. And like with stuff like that in mind, I go into listening to aespa's track, and then, you know, like the rest of, you know, what I said on that episode. So yeah, I try to focus a lot on the context and like the overall package, not just how it feels in the moment, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes excellent sense. And I also want to like tie this into what I know about you as a Star Wars fan. And to me, it makes complete sense now, because Star Wars is this generational mythology, right? And granted, certain movies aren't executed the way people would love them to be. It still tells an overarching story, a mythology, a modern myth, if you will.
You know what? That's why I love the prequels, even they are questionable quotes from the movie.
That's what I'm
questionable
saying.
Dialogue. But yeah, I mean, it tells the story of Anakin, you know? Like.
Yeah, so it's where you start, how you finish, and then where you want to be in the future. And I feel like your approach to music is definitely reflected in everything you have to say on the show. And it's a really good mix with everything that Doug has to offer, and then all the emotions that Anita brings in with her points of view. So
totally.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
So now going on to more current events on the show. I'm just gonna label this Spice Chart. Soju Chart. It was chaos. Please explain. This is your time. Please explain what happened.
I have blocked Anita from all my social media accounts. I declare a war on that child.
Oh God, Anita, I'm so sorry.
No. You know, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I didn't expect Doug to put Chung on first. I didn't. Oh well, I guess spoilers alert if you guys haven't listened to episode 125. Yeah, I mean, obviously Chung didn't make it because I was the only one that put it in the chart at all, I think.
That was insane. Yeah. I was like, what is happening? I have no idea what's happening. Please.
No.
Help.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so after recording the week before, so 124, Doug was like, you know, you guys are like pretty much holding the chart hostage. And both me and Anita, we were like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't, because at that point, I had already stopped listening to Chungha's X. I'll be very frank. I had gone back to listening to other songs that are similar to that nature. So like, I was listening to a lot of Black Skirts and Mid-Air Thief to begin with. Anita was listening to completely different music, and we were both like, like, I'm not sure if it'll make first again next week. This week, I honestly, before I started listening to the songs that were on the list, I wasn't sure to myself if I would put it on first. I didn't expect myself to, given like how much I had been listening to it a lot less. But then, I guess I wasn't very much impressed with the other candidates this week. So I still ended up giving it first. Clearly, obviously not the case with Anita, who I forget what she gave first, but I think it was Aespa. Dreamcatcher? Okay.
It was Dreamcatcher. I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah, I don't know. That came out of nowhere. To be frank, I haven't listened to the Dreamcatcher song at all ever since we discussed it on the show. I don't know, man. Like, never been that big of a Dreamcatcher fan, So like, I haven't gone back to it. But I know that's not the case. That's generally not the case with Doug or Anita. Where like they often, go back to the songs that they're listening to. They go back to the songs that we've already discussed, and it stays in the playlist for them. For me, unless I really like it a lot, it rarely does that. I know DD Dance. I've been listening to it quite a bit. Not gonna lie. Shout out to DD Dance, great song.
Shout out to Wiz Ones and your Universe song.
Shout out to all the people who are still salty over the Fiesta. I'm just kidding.
You know, if you want to do a special episode one day, we could do like an unfiltered Fiesta, what happened kind of documentary style.
A Fiesta debate. I'd be.
If you know what, I'll moderate it. If you and Doug want to get on each side of the podium, you can make that happen. Just gotta schedule that.
I will be frank. I was listening to Panorama again before I listened to DD Dance. I was like, maybe I was a little too harsh on Panorama. It's nice. It's good. But I don't know what Fiesta. Anyways, going back to the chart. That's I forgot what Doug had in his chart. No.
So the chart ended up being Dreamcatcher Odd Eye at 1, CIX Cinema at 2, and then Eyes 1 DD Dance at 3. A lot of math happened. A lot of things were happening. I was so confused by the end of it. But ultimately, so Koala and I had recorded earlier today, and we actually talked about our feelings about the chart. And it was mostly confusion, but if we step back and like look at what the segments are supposed to represent, right? It's supposed to represent kind of a changing opinion about music and also representative of the people who listen to the show. And we thought, like, you know what? Honestly, for the entertainment value, you can't do any better than this chaotic nonsense that just happened.
None of it was intended. This wasn't supposed to be.
The thing, it was genuine, which is even more beautiful. Oh man. So honestly, you guys just keep doing you. And we even said, like, if you guys do this more frequently, I think it gives a lot of people a lot to say. So I think you guys are doing great.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm never gonna try to like put a chart on just for the funny factor, but right. I do think, honestly, I feel like I often feel like I am not the chaotic one, and it's mostly Anita. I'm actually not even joking about this one, because I can make usually a good prediction about what Doug is gonna like. I know that I follow a couple set of patterns in terms of like which song I put on first and second and third. Anita, besides the fact that she likes music that sound retro, I have no clue. Like sometimes, like Dreamcatcher Odd Eye on first. Dude, what?
Yeah, like that was the biggest curveball I've heard in a long time. So
top 10 anime betrayals of all time, right there.
Got to make that YouTube video.
Watch Mojo.
All right, so let's like focus in on Chungha a little bit because
Yeah.
she's no longer on the chart. But you had a lot of like really good things to say about Chungha and her career, her experience, and musically where she's at with this pre-release. So, what spoke to you most about this song, and what do you hope for as far as this style of music that she'll be doing in the future?
I mean, to be frank, I don't expect her, or I don't really hope for her to continue doing music in this field, I guess, because obviously her main thing is dance pop and like really energized, dance pop music, which I think is what Bike is gonna be about, or Bicycle, I forget. And obviously it'd be nice if she keeps putting out music like this, but I'm not totally sure how much of it'll happen. But in terms of the song itself, I felt like it was a different side of the coin, and that was really nice because, as you and I have both said, I really think it's not really about her ex boyfriend or whatever. I think it's about her ex fans, people who were her fans, and that really makes me think about her position in the industry and how she views her career so far, and how she's gotten to the point where she is at the moment. Because I remember like one of the lyrics that really stuck out to me in the chorus was something along the lines of, the path I walked so far was actually not a flower path, and that felt like a clear reference to the whole like, oh, walk your flower path kind of, meme that was, going around back in Produce 101 season 1, while cleverly referencing how she views her perspective. And in that aspect, obviously I felt like as an artist, she's going to have a lot to say, especially given that I think it's fair to say that she has been the most fortunate of all the people who have come from IOI. And this to me felt like a look into that. So on top of the entire like, oh, the production is good, oh, like the song is written well, that whole layer of like my own narrative is injected to a full degree in this song. That to me was like very, impressive.
Yeah, no, totally. And it really shows you the depth that she'll go to with like song lyrics and creatively putting together this piece of art, right? And showing you more than just her as a performer, but her as a cogent person who has feelings and emotions, and that her experiences have painted who she is up until this point in her career. Everything you said about walking that flower path and then people kind of leaving her at certain points in her life and her career. Knowing what we know about Chungha and the way that she values friendships and relationships, just with all of her idol friends and just being on different vlog shows and variety, do you feel like this can also be a referendum on the industry, in that with IOI we had such high expectations for everyone, and
honestly,
and then nobody succeeded the same way, right? So then obviously fans would fall by the wayside for several people. I mean, Sejong, we all love Sejong, but I feel like Gugudan is no longer a thing. So it's like people kind of leaving them behind, whether that's the company, whether that's actual fans. But do you also see this as a message to her peers?
To her peers?
Or with her peers, I guess. Like including her peers.
To a degree, I definitely would think so. Because, because like you mentioned, when IZ*ONE was... Sorry, not IZ*ONE. Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're good. It happens. It's fine. Did I say IZ*ONE? I hope I did say IZ*ONE.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, right. Back when IOI was first disbanding,
yes.
Right? Disbanding. People had a lot of high hopes. Everyone, like, I know for a fact I was a lot less invested in K-pop back then. But I had picked up on who IOI was. I think Very, Very, Very was the big track that, put everyone's eyes on them. And then immediately, that was their last title track before they disbanded. So a lot of eyes in general were on like, oh, like what's gonna be next? Oh, what group are they going into? Um, and I think for a lot of people, people expected it to be like, oh, it's gonna be an easy gateway, easy segue into the rest of your careers because you already have this, so much of this popularity. And clearly, that's not what happened. That's clearly, like you mentioned, Sejong, obviously is going, through a second phase of her. Well, I guess third phase of her career. I probably wouldn't say Yeonjung is the most popular in Cosmic Girls, and that kind of deal. And given all that, I think the song does represent her peers a little bit too. Whether they intended it or not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I think because of that shared experience, I think it does say a lot about former members of IOI.
Yeah, no, that's it's a very pointed thought, right? To kind of just expand into, and it really just kind of goes into like the power of K-pop as an entertainment industry, but also like the globalization and like how it reaches other people. So kind of our closing thoughts here before we wrap everything up. I did want to ask you, so Korea as an entertainment industry, whether it's music, movies, TV shows, has become so widely globally accepted, right, and popular in so many different ways. What is your hope and direction for Korean culture being celebrated moving forward?
Hope and direction for Korean culture and media. Oh man, I feel I definitely don't feel qualified to answer on this one.
So tell me how you feel, Warren. It doesn't have to be intellectual. It's just, how do you feel being a Korean citizen?
How do I feel, dude? I'm worried as heck. I'll tell you that. That's what I'll tell you. I mean, to a degree, I know that it's never gonna keep going up. It's not. At a certain point, it's gonna level off and it's gonna fall down. And the way I view that a little bit is the way Japanese culture and media was accepted back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, where right now, I feel like we are kind of, Korean media and culture is kind of going the path that Japanese media and culture kind of has. And obviously, that probably might be because I went to an elementary school with a heck ton of Japanese kids. But, to a degree, it also kind of reminds me of experiences I had where like people are like, oh, yes, Sony, Toshiba, Mitsubishi. Not sure what Samsung or LG is, which, sorry, that's obviously not media or culture.
But it's brand recognition for that specific country, which then translates into like your awareness and visibility.
Right. And I think everyone's kind of aware that the soft power of Korea has definitely gone up in the last decade. And it's a big deal for Koreans. They eat that, crap up like there's no tomorrow. Like back when Gangnam Style was a thing, like back in like what, 2012, 13, something like that.
10 years ago. Can you believe
Dude,
that?
Yeah, we're old, man. I remember tuning into the Korean news every now and then on YouTube or Naver or whatever, and there were so many like part segments that were about, oh, there's a club in France playing Korean music. Will you look at that? Like people are so excited. And even now, even this many years after, that's still the case. That is still the case. Where like BTS, for example, like I know a lot of like middle-aged fans of Korea aren't super into the narrative or the music that BTS brings, but like they're really, really big a fan of the industry impact that they have had, and the way that represents Korea. Same with all the sports players, same with Parasite, that kind of deal. So on one end, I'm glad people are on board. I'm glad everyone who enjoys Korean movies or dramas or music or smartphones or whatever, I'm glad they like it, and I hope it doesn't pass away like a fad, and rather it just kind of plateaus off at a certain degree. and and has its niche little place in mainstream culture. That's my hope, I guess, which isn't really the most positive, like, oh, I hope it becomes mainstream culture and everywhere. But I think realistically speaking, that's the best anyone can really ask for.
Yeah, no, and I would say it's positive. I would say, I mean, for the most part, like, you're not saying it's going to be crashing down anytime soon. I mean,
oh, I hope not. I don't think so. No, yeah.
So I mean, we're saying that it'll reach a point, like a peak, and then hopefully it'll just level off and not like go any worse. Which I would say that's a hope. I guess for me, like, I've in the past like couple of years, I would say like 5 or 6 years, I've become more aware of just like being Asian American in America, right? And like being of mixed culture. I grew up in the United States, but I did immigrate here when I was 2 years old. So
oh, wow.
I am from the Philippines, but I still consider my culture as American. But I never really understood like how to celebrate and how to kind of bring forth the visibility of like Asian culture, right? Because I mean, the only thing we have is like anime, and then like the occasional like Japanese or like kung fu movie here and there. But now it's come to the case where no, like it's important to celebrate heritage. It's important to celebrate the eclectic histories of everyone, especially coming into Western markets, and making money is always a good thing, So
no, of course, and I always thought that I noticed that was happening a couple of years ago, where like people who especially Asian Americans were they were taking on Korean culture or whatever as a medium to kind of help them identify together as Asian Americans. Like I think one that really stood out to me was all the memes on subtle Asian traits. And then like when I was talking to a lot of Asian Americans on or Asian people in general on dating apps, a common topic that we discuss or common stuff that really gets brought up often is Korean dramas or Korean movies or K-pop. And I'm glad that we have that kind of middle ground where everybody can come together. Because don't get me wrong, anime is great. I used to be a gigantic weeb. I'm not really that much anymore.
Come on, you're in a safe space, Warren.
I would like to let it known that I don't have any body pillows at the moment. I didn't when I was in high school. That joke didn't go anywhere.
It's okay. No, it's fine. I understood the joke. I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Anime is trash, and so am I. Let's go.
Let's go.
No. But it's yeah. So don't get me wrong. Still love anime. Still think it's a great part of this culture. But I'm glad we have a lot more faucets, if you will, because diversification. Anime is great, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if anything to open up like the visibility of Asian culture, right? So if it's through anime, if it's through K-pop and Korean entertainment, that's a really good entry point for a lot of people. But now it's I would like to say it's part of the responsibility for people like you and me and the generation coming behind us to be like, oh yes, like this is the entry point, Japanese and Korean culture. But guess what? Like, people from Thailand got a dope culture too. People from Vietnam,
that's true.
They do cool stuff too.
That's true.
The Philippines, we're Asian.
There's a lot more room for diversification, and I think one step at a time. That's the way it should go. I will admit, I'm not super into those people. Because I can't name names obviously, but I know a couple kids who used to go on dating apps and only pick out people who they think are really into K-pop, and they're like, oh, I'm Korean, you like K-pop, are you turned on, that kind of deal.
Yeah,
that's stupid. Don't do that. Jesus.
Yeah, and that just goes with a general sense of ignorance with everyone, right? That's not specific to one group of people. It's kind of just shortcuts that people make about other people, and hopefully a lot of the stigma and those things go away with just more visibility and exposure to what Asian culture can be. Right. All right.
Well said.
So, Warren, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an amazing, longer than expected conversation. Yeah, no, this is awesome.
No, yeah. No, thank you for having me. I'm always down to talk. So if you want me on again another time, dude, I will gladly. Well, I mean, you should probably bring on Doug and Anita too. So
Yeah. Well, so spoiler, I have plans. I'm mapping things out. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, I will await very patiently, see where it all goes.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on this very special edition of the SojuTalk Nation. For Warren, this is Crispy. Now back to the SojuTalk Nation after show. And that was my interview with Warren. Check out the main show just to make sure to check out the main show to catch up on everything that we talked about today, and give them a like and a comment, and just let them know how you feel about Warren joining us here on the SojuTalk Nation podcast. All right, so moving on now to State of the Nation. This week was another World Cup. It's Best Worst Travel Experiences. When I first heard and saw this title, I was unsure what this was going to be. Turned out it was a lot more fun and weird than I expected.
Some very specific options.
Yeah, and Doug mentioned that Warren put this together himself, correct?
His brain.
Right? So he had to like be creative about like the weird places you would go or the weird circumstances that would make some place not desirable.
Enjoyable.
Yeah, enjoyable. So again, listen to the main show for the details. We won't go into all of them, but we will talk about a few of the specific places and why they chose them, question mark. So Cole, let's start with you. What were some of the choices that stood out to you?
Everything, because the arguments were really interesting for every round. Oh god, where do I begin? I think, for example, the first one with the 24/7 ba 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 in Seoul, or the skydiving.
Oh my god. So I went back to listen to that song just to see how like horrific it would be to listen to that 24/7. It would be very hard. I'll just say that. So skydiving in Hamburg, Germany, is that a thing?
I don't know.
Don't you live like around the corner from that place?
Around what the? It's like 4 hours away. We were supposed to go there before Rona happened for holidays.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a controlled environment, and that's something that is a tourist destination. So I don't see how that would be worse than any of the things that you have to set up to be difficult. So like food poisoning on a cruise. I feel like that would just be terrible because you would, because you can't control that, right? Or like the bop 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 around Korea. It's like you can't control that
24/7. Like even if you sleep, that point was like really important. It's still playing even if you want to try to sleep.
Well, you can't sleep. Like how? I don't know. I would just go crazy. And
just then, like ba sleepwalking.
Oh my god, that would be like that. Yeah, I can't even like comprehend how that would be a thing. And then the other one with like your friend nagging you about money the entire trip. It's like, yeah, no, please don't. So yeah, I feel like skydiving is just, yes, it's one like very terrifying thing to do, but once you do it, you're done, and now you're in Germany. Or
just like Doug said, worst case scenario, he dies. Oh, God.
Okay. So before we get into the rest of this, I've come to learn about Doug that he is a very YOLO person.
Yes.
Where it's like not that he doesn't value his life, but he's very like, I'm living on the edge. If it happens,
worst case scenario,
like
hit the ground.
Like whatever, universe, take me. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So another example would be when he talked about selling his leg for $5 million. I'm just gonna let that sink in. I don't really have anything to add to that.
Just a statement.
It's just, it exists. Doug, you're I wish I was as confident as you, is how I'll put that. So the other standout to me was North Korea and how deathly afraid they are. Well, at least Doug was about going back to North Korea, going to North Korea. Sorry about
not going back.
He never lived there, to be clear. But just the idea of, yo, I'm American. Please don't take me, and how deathly terrifying that would be if they just decided like, no, we're gonna keep you here. So that's not. And also the fact that it was being compared to cosplay in Tokyo. It's like, is that even a question? Hello?
I think I've read a comment beneath the podcast that cosplaying in Tokyo is prohibited if it's like not a convention. I think that was pretty interesting. If you put that into aspect that you're probably being chased by the police to pay some fees. I don't know if it's true, but I read the comment. Imagine you also just need to pay fees every time because you're not allowed to cosplay.
Oh wow! That does add a little wrinkle in the situation, but I would still rather go to Tokyo.
I mean, of course, but like for the next rounds,
where there's essentially still like civil rights and democracy, as opposed to potentially being stranded in North Korea. But still,
crash landing on you.
Say that again.
Crash landing on you, stranded in North Korea. God. That situation.
Imagine getting stranded in North Korea and then being rescued by Hyunbin. Imagine.
Yeah, imagine being thrown into a CGI tornado and landing in North Korea.
Oh God. Well, come on. She learned so much about herself and she grew as a person. It was all worth it. Okay, this is turning into a K-drama club. Okay, so one of the other standouts to me was, where was it? Disney World. Okay, so Disney World, at first when Doug said, if you attended Disney World with someone who couldn't ride the rides, I was like, oh, that wouldn't be fun. But I think for me, because I haven't been to Disneyland or Disney World in so many years, I would want to ride everything. But when Doug said the ambiance and just the atmosphere and like being around the magical kingdom, I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really pleasant. And just like being around, because you can eat things. And there's Galaxy's Edge, there's the Star Wars place, and I could go to the cantina and I could drink things.
Don't make me jealous.
There's not one.
How was Disneyland? I've never been to Disneyland in Paris. How's Disneyland in America?
So I've only been to Disneyland because I'm on the West Coast. I mean, it's as magical as you can imagine, honestly.
Is it worth it?
I kind of love it. So yeah, like everything. The only thing is, it is very expensive to just spend a day there, because like you can bring food, like you can sneak food into your backpack, but it only lasts you for so long.
And that's the reason why we didn't go to Disneyland when we were in Paris, because Paris itself is already hella expensive. Don't go there. Just don't. It's like $6 for one bottle of water. Just don't go there. But like Disneyland was so freaking expensive that we decided, okay, let's just do some sightseeing. Look at the Eiffel Tower. Ooh, pretty.
Oh, pretty. Take a picture. Okay, cool. I'm surprised nothing from Paris made it onto the list. Maybe Warren will think of something for a future World Cup about Paris.
Yes, please, more World Cups. I think they're really entertaining.
Yeah, they're super awesome.
And just conversations you just don't normally have. Like,
right? Especially with Warren's brain working and making like very difficult scenarios. So yeah, no, keep it up. Any other favorite comparisons from the World Cup?
I think it was nice to have the two animal trips paired up against each other. The penguin and the shark cage diving.
Yeah, that was really fun too. Which one would you have picked?
I don't know. Penguin watching, honestly, like sounds pretty lame if you've done it like for 2 hours. And after that, it's just like they do the same shit over and over again. So even though I'm like scared of like water and shit, I would still do shark cage diving, to be honest.
Wow, so you're an adventurer. Okay, I see.
I mean, I hate the cold. No, I don't like that. We don't do that here.
You live in Germany.
It's freezing.
It's freezing.
Yeah, it's freezing. Yeah, I'm not going outside.
Okay, fine. But they're penguins. They're so adorable.
They are not like shark cage diving.
I mean, I guess for the thrill. I guess it's pretty safe, right? Like from what they said, like they won't actually eat you. They don't like eating humans. Yeah.
Back to the or you just lose a foot.
Or just lose a foot. God, $5 million lose a foot. So I guess we'll end it with the Tokyo cosplay conversation. Okay, so my main highlight and takeaway is that Doug will be immediately drunk as soon as he leaves the airplane when he lands in Tokyo. Doug, you're the best. Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Yes, we're going to drink all the sake and drink beer, and that is my plan too. Once the world opens up and I get to go travel the world. I actually had a trip to Japan planned in March 2020. God damn, it was a year ago already. Yeah, then the pandemic happened and everything got canceled. So that was kind of sad, but I do want to make it out to Japan eventually.
Same.
Yeah.
I also planned it last year.
Yeah, so looking forward to future World Cups. Pris did mention on Discord, I did see it in suggestions to do a balance game. I didn't really understand what that was until Warren explained it, and that sounds really interesting as well. So looking forward to that. If you guys have suggestions for games for them, go over to our Discord, go into suggestions to the crew, and let them know. I need to follow up on the balance game because I do have some ideas, but yeah, hopefully we can get that going for them and give them more fun things to talk about in the future. So moving on to our Discord adventures for the week. We had one pretty big event-ish. It was kind of last minute put together, but it was really fun just to have everyone together. Yeah, so we watched a movie together. Movie night for some, movie morning for me. 10 a.m. in the morning.
I don't know what you mean.
So on Sunday, February 7th, we got together on Discord. It was myself, Koala, Jokab, Ara, and Therese. And we watched the brand new Netflix movie, Space Sweepers. Wah, wah, wah. Koala. Well, let's explain. Do you want to explain Space Sweepers to everyone? Just a quick synopsis about the movie.
It basically plays in the future. I think it's 2092. Yeah, and there's this like Loki dying. Not gonna lie, and people are living in the space nowadays, and they're like, as the name called the name of the movie says, Space Sweepers, and I think like the Korean ones were like one of the best. And the main character's protagonist is like one Korean team of Space Sweepers, and they are not looking for Dorothy, but like in general, people are looking for Dorothy, a little kid, and they find that little kid, and yeah, the plot revolves around that.
Yeah, well said, Koala. Yeah, so it's a science fiction movie. Going into it, I thought it was going to be a completely Korean movie, a movie in Korean language.
Was so international,
right?
It was. I've never seen such an international cast, to be honest.
It was so surprising, but there is an in-story way they get around the language with these earpieces that you can translate immediately, and so you speak your native language, but then you hear the language that you know. So I thought that was a nice, a cool little detail about just like in the future, yes, like languages still exist. But now, like, there's a more universal way to communicate with each other, and people will just naturally be around others from different cultures. So yeah, I thought it was nice to introduce, like, first English, then it was German, and I know we had some Danish,
Spanish,
and
Mandarin,
and I was excited. I heard it. There was Tagalog.
There was
Tagalog. So Yeah, it's a very international feeling movie. Also, very big budget.
And
Yeah.
the most important thing, very cute little girl.
Yes.
A lot of ubus.
She stole the movie. Okay, so Koala
She stole the
explained.
scene for everyone.
Yes, like, as soon as she was introduced, she was just the center of the attention for the entire rest of the movie. So Koala did explain that there are like these government powers or this corporate entity is after this one little girl. Her name's Dorothy. So she is this very adorable, cute little girl. She speaks Korean. She's Korean, and she has these microbots, nanobots. She has these nanobots in her system because it was implanted into her to save her life, and then it turns out she has this power now that she can control these nanobots in the universe in space, because these nanobots give life. So this corporate entity wants her because they want to control this ability to create life and use it to destroy everyone on Earth, to kill the entire world. Spoilers if you didn't realize that we're going into spoiler territory. But yeah, but just her character, as soon as she came onto screen, she was the attention of everybody on Discord. It was amazing. Koala, explain your emotions and feelings about her and what happened after we watched the movie.
We were so soft for her. Oh my god. I didn't expect. I don't know what I expected going into the movie, but I didn't expect going out of it just looking at a little girl and just crying on the inside because she's too cute and wholesome.
Yeah, she was just. It's one of those where she balanced the story so well, because like we're introduced to this group of like misfits who they're not bad guys, they're not criminals, but they're kind of like unlikable and they don't even like each other, but they have to work together. And we don't really know their motivations yet at this point, right? We just kind of feel like they're doing everything for the money. And even to the point where it's like, oh, they'll sell this girl back for like millions and millions of dollars, but we don't know why yet. But then she's like your emotional like grounding point where it's like not only is she adorable and cute, but she's your entry point into why the main character has this attachment to the little girl. It's because he's looking for his daughter. It's just like, man, really? And then they give you kind of the background of like the other characters and just like how soft like the engineer was, right? Where he's like this like really tough guy and like, you know, he's all tatted up, but he's actually probably like the softest towards her.
Yeah.
And he calls her Uncle Tiger. And then the captain, where you basically go into like her history and that she's been through some stuff, but she's doing it all for like this leadership role of like the head of the family. Even though like she rejects this idea of like I hate you all and you're all just on my ship or whatever, but ultimately she's there for her crew. But I will say the big surprise was the robot.
Dung!
Can you explain? Can you tell us more about this robot, Koala?
He's so hilarious. Oh no, not he. She. Oh
Yes.
god.
Let's make that clear distinction. So the voice is clearly a male voice, but we find out later in the movie that she is actually Unni.
Only.
and she wants Skin to be a human girl? Question mark?
Yes. And then, like the last scene where she chooses her voice and like good Neem is like, oh, I like your voice better right now. Keep it.
Just
Oh.
like, rip your heart out. God. Yeah, I think, and this was the comparison I saw online prior to watching the movie, that this was very similar to Cowboy Bebop, the anime from, I'll say it's almost been 30 years since that anime was released.
It's old.
Yeah. But it's the same concept and same theme of found family in space, right? Where you're in a dystopian future, there's lawlessness in space, but now you're trying to just find your way, and yes, you've done some bad things, but ultimately in your heart, you're good people, and what brings you together. So I think this movie does a really nice job of capturing that theme, that spirit, but doing so in a very modern, like cinematic way. And then also doing it with just like an international feel where everyone feels connected to this movie. So, yeah.
We were able to all just cringe a bit at the pronunciation of our like mother tongue.
I think that was like one of the big highlights. It's like you hear your language, you're like, yes, that's mine. Man. Any final thoughts about movie night and just the movie in general, Koala?
Please more movie nights.
Yeah.
Please more.
Yeah, it was really fun. It worked out really well. Again, we planned it kind of last minute, but it turned out everyone saw the movie on Netflix and wanted to watch it together. And yeah, it worked really well. So hopefully we do more of these. We have plans for other viewing type things. Maybe we'll talk about that later on another show. But yeah, we'll just stay tuned for more Discord adventures and hopefully getting that conversation going with the things we enjoy and like in Korean entertainment and music. Okay, so our closing thoughts this week. Just a quick check-in. Koala, how's life?
I'm living the best life.
Clearly.
So much YG content.
Okay,
Oh,
so tell us what is around the corner for YG and YG artists.
Icon. A lot of icon. And Rosie.
Much icon. I don't understand.
So much Rosie. And more icon afterwards because Kingdom.
Yeah, that's gonna
and
be
a lot of treasure.
That's gonna be wild. I'm actually pretty excited for icon to be investing this much time and effort and energy into Kingdom.
They have to.
Because I think it was a news piece came out today that Bobby's gonna stop solo promotions early so he can focus on the music and stage performances for Kingdom.
Bro, I'm so ready.
And the crazy
it's
thing is,
it's been more a year. Yeah. Yes.
And like the crazy thing is like, yes, like our brains immediately go to like choreography and stage performances, but considering who icon are, what if Bobby just like drops the sickest raps for 4 weeks in a row, just like destroys us? It just like takes over, like, because that's the one thing that you can say like icon will be better at than any other group right now.
Stray Kids pretty good. You're not so familiar with boy groups, Crispy.
I mean, true. I only know Bobby at this point. Well, can you imagine like a Stray Kids versus icon rap battle stage?
That's kind of unfair because icon only has one rapper. Stray Kids has like 3.
But he's real good.
Yes,
he's real good.
That hurts again, Hanbin.
We don't want to talk about that. What if? No, I'm not gonna say it. Nope.
Don't do that. I do.
Nope. I don't want to say it because my last memory of Hanbin is when
Tok 누구 앞서.
Fuck. Why? Yes. So Lehigh and Hanbin's friendship. As soon as Lehigh left YG last year, I think she Instagrammed a photo of them, like a message between them, because she wants to like. I mean, she probably may have done collaborations just on the side, just as like artistic projects, but yeah, BI's SoundCloud was popping off. And I was like, "Excuse me, hello, can we get this now?"
Hanbin, please come back. But like, okay, I will be so done if they have like a sad stage on Kingdom. It will be over for me. But like, icon is not the only thing. Rosie. Right. Even though it's probably March, I hate you, YG. Better drop something like the next 8 hours. Yeah. But like, maybe we finally get something. And they talked about Seungyeon, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
the Rosie stuff, I feel like it was expected. That, I mean, we never got any clear dates, right? So, I mean, it was just our expectation that because they announced something, we were going to get it soon. I mean, okay, whatever. Like, they
said coming soon.
We don't get it.
Liars.
We don't get it as soon as we had liked, but I'm just gonna step back on that one and just be like, okay, this was expected.
Okay.
I mean,
YG.
granted, we got her stage and we got half of the music video.
Oh,
I'm kind of happy with
this
it.
guy.
So,
Oh god, it's so bad that we're already satisfied with that.
oh,
Because
I
they've
love
been-
this guy. Okay.
Oh.
But yeah, the Soyeon
No.
stuff. I mean, they have the next 5 years to come out with another single. So,
Oh man. Angmu, winner, so much stuff. But in general, the next weeks will be like more of me talking because a lot of boy groups and male artists are coming back.
yeah, no, I will prepare for that. I'll watch the music videos at least once.
At least once.
At
And
least
if I'm
once.
lucky, twice.
This week was this week I prepared more than I've ever prepared for a boy group. I watched CIX's Cinema
What?
1.5
Treasure?
times.
No, you're hurting me. You didn't watch Treasure like twice?
Okay, so Treasure, that first week of release, I actually only watched the music video once.
What?
I'll just say that now. However, afterwards, see, it's replayability, right? And it's how often do you come back to a song and music video. So
I am disappointed.
let's just
I
say,
am greatly disappointed.
let's just say it has better staying power than that initial week that we discussed it. And I think that means more than just, trying to get something out there just because, I want to say something. No, it's how do I feel later on, you know?
It will be in your top 10. I will predict it.
It's only February.
But it's already.
Oh man. Well, okay, I'm just not gonna say anything because I don't want to regret anything I say in the future. Oh man. Any final thoughts for this week, Koala? Anything looking forward to for next week?
Not K-pop related, but I'm looking forward to see whether I need to sit at home with online schooling for another month or not.
Oh.
They're going to announce it in the next few days. Let's see how this one goes.
Yeah. I hope the pandemic is starting to turn around for you in Germany. It's
I will be the last year that will go back because I'm 11th grade, so they will first let primary school go back to normal
makes sense.
class again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, gotta wait a bit more.
Yeah. In the US, everything is still kind of unclear and uncertain. Is the best way to put that. Things are getting better. I know some of my friends' parents and grandparents who got the vaccine, which has been very emotional news just hearing it, in the sense that things are changing for the better, but it's still very uncertain and there's still a lot of loss and just being afraid for other people who may not have the same access or same ability to protect themselves at this point. So yeah, just a little heavy there. But for me, I will say, living in California, still getting 70-degree days with bright sun and no rain, I can't complain. I just honestly,
It was 14 for me the last day. Fahrenheit.
thank you for converting that for us Americans who don't understand Celsius. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, so that does it for this week. Do I have anything to say? No, I don't really have much.
No. Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the SojuTalk Nation Podcast, episode 5.
Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify or your preferred podcast platform, and continue the conversation on the SojuTalk Kpop Podcast Discord.
This has been the SojuTalk Nation. For Koala, this is Crispy. Bye.
Bye.